Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'll be joined by John Jeffery, and we'll be talking all about the new Kiss tribute CD, Buffalo Rock City. Alrighty, let's jump in and get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm excited to have with me a special guest. You might recognize him from his time with Kiss This, the tribute band. He's working right now, he's produced a Kiss tribute album. He's been involved in Kiss fanzines over the years. Please welcome to the show, John Jeffery. How you doing, John?
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Mike. I feel so blessed to be able to be here today and talk to you about Buffalo Rock City and anything that you want to know. I'm an open book, so whatever you want to talk about.
Awesome. No, I think this will be an exciting conversation for Kiss fans. So, but just in case some Kiss fans don't know about you and who you are, before we talk the CD, just I guess tell us, when did you become a Kiss fan? How did you first get involved with Kiss?
Well, probably like most Kiss fans, my exposure to the band very young age, seeing the Destroyer album cover, that was, a lot of people, share the same story. Once I seen that album cover and heard the music, I was hooked. And, basically, growing up from a, young age being a Kiss fan, I'm sure like a lot of fans who, became infatuated with the band, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to meet the band. So going back to about 1985, 86, this is before obviously the internet and everything. And if you wanted a phone number, you couldn't just Google a phone number. You'd have to utilize what they called information back then. And you call information and get a telephone number. So inside all the Kiss records, there was always, listing for Kiss management. And I believe at the time it was Glickman Marks was the management for Kiss. So I called up information and gave them the address, and they had a phone number. So I called up the phone number that they gave me, and they answered, Kiss offices, which I believe the last four digits of the number was 5477, which Kiss fans may or may not know that's Kiss, right? So yeah, so I called the office and, I basically, they could tell that I was very young and I just was like, I'm a Kiss fan. What do I do or what I need to do to talk to a member of Kiss or to meet Kiss? And they're like, well, Kiss only talks to essentially press, people who run magazines. So my next question was like, well, if I had a magazine, I would be able to talk to Kiss. And they're like, yeah. So I came up with the idea to start my own Kiss magazine, and I started a Kiss fanzine called the Kiss Underground. And the first issue I released was in 1987, and the Kiss Underground was, I believe, the longest running United States Kiss fan club fanzine. That ran from 1987 to 2007.
Oh, wow.
And I put out the first issue in 1987, and I did my very first interview with Eric Carr. He was the first member of Kiss that I had the opportunity to interview. And from then on, I interviewed every member who had ever been, in Kiss, past or present. And, that was a great opportunity for me to be able to establish, some sort of relationships with the band members, because I'm not a fan. Like some people are like, well, I only like the original lineup. I only like this lineup. If it's not with Ace, not with Peter, then it's not for me. I love all eras of Kiss. So for me, being able to, get to know to a certain level and become friends to a certain level with different members of Kiss, it's really changed my life in a lot of ways, and I appreciate the opportunity. And so that's basically my background as far as when I got into Kiss and how I kind of built a relationship with Kiss throughout the years. And then throughout that time, while also learning I guess journalism as I went along with it, because I really didn't go into it as being a journalist per se. I just I just talked to I'm a 16-year-old kid talking to the guys on Kiss on the phone, recording the conversations, and then transcribing them out. And that was kind of crash course to music journalism. And at the same time, I picked up guitar around the same time, around 16, started playing guitar. And then in the late 90s, I actually started my first Kiss tribute band. And that was something that I did kind of just more or less as a hobby on and off. And then in 2013, I really started becoming more serious about it. And I started my own Kiss tribute band called Kiss This that I've been doing since 2013 pretty regularly. And so, that's been a fun, release as far as, being able to play the music that I love. And, I'm a big Ace Frehley fan, and, I love all the guitar players at Kiss, Bruce Kulick, Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, Tommy Thayer. They're all great players in their own right. So, being able to, study their licks, learn little things that they do as, musicians. And, that's been, a lot of fun.
Now, when was the first time you saw them in concert?
First time I saw them in concert was the Dynasty tour.
Nice.
79.
Same here. Yep. Same
when
here.
I was 7 years old. Yeah.
Very cool. I think that's one of the things to me when I look at the tribute CD, and we'll talk about that more, coming up. I look at that track listing and it just screams somebody who's been a longtime fan. And like you said, a fan of all eras, because you look at that track list and a lot of these tribute CDs focus on one era, one member. There's a Vinnie Vincent one, right? This was covering all eras. So I love that part about it. But before we even talk about that for a moment, Kiss has been known over the years to have a number of tribute albums, Kiss My Ass, Hard to Believe, I think was the first one, right? So did you own those out? Did you own those?
First one. Yeah, well, that was the thing. Was Hard to Believe was the very first one that came out in 1990, and since then there was over 50 that had come out, including Kiss's own official Kiss tribute album, Kiss My Ass. And that was like the biggest thing, doing Buffalo Rock City, was knowing that there were so many records that were done before we had done this record, that it was really important that I did my homework and really studied a lot of the songs that really had been, in my opinion, overdone, and a lot of the songs that never had been touched upon before, and also, doing them in some ways in a different way. And, on some songs we did very authentic to the original, versions of them as well.
Yeah. When did you decide to start doing this project?
It actually started out from a Kiss This show in 2014. A really good friend of mine, Jody Valletta, who was playing in a band, they're originally called Jive Injection. And my very first band, we rehearsed in a rehearsal hall that was literally right next door to their rehearsal hall. And Jody, God bless him, he's literally been in the same band going back to about 1990. And they're all original band. They've changed their name. They're called Do Driver now. They actually opened up for Kiss on the Sonic Boom tour at Darien Lake. They were doing a contest during that tour where in every city they would have, the local
Well,
band of the area get voted. And then ultimately, I believe it was Doc McGee and Gene and Paul. They all, they decided who it was going to be. It was open the show, and Dew Driver opened up that show on the Sonic Boom tour. I believe that was 2010, and great band, and Jody's a fantastic vocalist, and being a big Kiss fan as well, he had actually booked Kiss This, my tribute band, at the place where he was booking at the time. And after the show, we got into the common conversation that many Kiss fans talk about is, why does Kiss play only certain songs live?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm sure that's like the biggest topic of
why we could probably have a 24-hour conversation on that alone.
Exactly. So we just started talking about all the songs that are so great that Kiss, maybe did once or twice or never played live. And we just started talking about how cool it would be to get together with all the other Kiss fans from the area and got together and do like a big Kiss jam was the discussion. And then the discussion just kind of, went, well, if we're going to do this big epic jam, we got to record it. And then it was like, well, if we're going to record it, it looks like we're going to book some studio time and we're going to make a record. And it never really was like, we never went in with the intention originally that we're going to go and do a Kiss tribute record. It was just, we wanted to go and record a bunch of Kiss songs that we loved. But I guess by default, that's the definition of a Kiss tribute album, is an album full of Kiss songs, right? So that's what it basically wound up being. And then as the process, we started going through the song selection and started figuring out what songs we wanted to do. We also started thinking about doing the record for a cause. And we wanted to, really find a good cause that we could work with. And here in Western New York, and I'm sure as many other places throughout the world, homelessness is a big issue here. And, we wanted to do something to help the homeless. And while there's lots of different charities that do help with the homeless, there's one in particular here in Buffalo called the Compass House. And what they do in particular is they help the homeless youth population. They help kids that are, they come from broken homes or where the parents, drug addicts or mental health issues, and and they didn't pay the rent, so they have no place to live. And the way that it's set up is a lot of homeless shelters, they don't allow children, they're only adults. So you'd wind up having situations where the adults wouldn't want to be split up from their kids because they wouldn't want to go to a shelter where they couldn't take their kids. And so they would just wind up on the streets. So they would, Compass House rather, they were able to step up and help out, the youth that couldn't get into regular shelters, and they provided shelters for them. And in a lot of cases too, they just basically help, kids who really didn't have, they didn't have a future. They helped them rebuild their lives and get established and, get on their feet. And they're a great organization. So the whole idea of homelessness and that played a part in the song selection, because we started looking at, basically the non-cock rock Kiss songs, which there's tons of, don't get me wrong, I love all Kiss music, but, aside from, all the songs, Making Love, Love Gun, all those songs, Fits Like a Glove, all the songs about sex and partying and rock and roll, there's a lot of great songs that, they talk about, being, introspective, like songs on The Elder, I've Had Enough from Animalize, literally living on the streets, dirty living, hard times, songs like that, and we started thinking, well, if we're going to do this record and do it for a cause, and it's going to be, for charity, for homelessness, we kind of had the songs tie in almost in a concept type way, the song selection kind of, was a tip of the hat to the charity that we decided to, donate the proceeds to.
That's really awesome. And, it's one of the things when I heard there was, like you said before, I think there's approximately 50 tribute albums. So when I heard another one was
Yeah.
coming out, my first thought was, oh, it's another Kiss tribute album. Okay. We've heard it all before. But when I saw your track list of songs, and the one that jumped off the page at me instantly was when I saw The Street Giveth. I was like, wow, okay, they're going deep with this. And that got my interest at first. I was like, wow, all right, this is an interesting selection of songs they chose here. But then when I listened to it, the sound across the whole thing was just, I'll say, phenomenal. Probably second to none in terms of Kiss tribute albums that I've ever heard before. So how did you pull that off to make it sound like really one cohesive, total album?
Well, that was the thing. Every Kiss tribute record that had come out up to this one, they're all compilation records. Mm-hmm. So what you'd wind up having is you'd have varying quality of recordings from, somebody that would go in and they would record, in a full, recording studio, to somebody who might have just had, like a 4-track or 8-track, digital recorder. So, you'd go from something that sounds like, like a fully produced song to the next song you're listening to sounds like transistor radio, right. and it's really fatiguing to the ear. So especially myself being a musician, listening to those records, as much as I appreciated, the fans and the fandom and all the effort that they put into making those records, a lot of them are really hard to listen to, because you go from track to track and it would just sound so different. So going into this, I'm like, well, why don't we just record this like how a band would go in and record an album? And if people don't know the process, essentially most records are made, they'll start out where they go and they record all the drums. Right. And then everything is built from the drums as being the foundation. The drums and they call them scratch tracks or bed tracks. They're not the final recordings, but they'll be like scratch guitar tracks or vocals just to cue the drummer of where they need to be in the song. And then you go back and you record the final, vocals, final guitars as the album is being recorded. So what we did is we recorded all the drums in the same studio, on the same drum set, on the same day. Oh, wow. And then everything that we recorded on top of that, which we recorded, a lot of it we recorded locally, but then we had a lot of national artists who contributed to the record, who recorded their parts remotely, and everything was all flown in and everything was all built on the same tracks. So you had the drum tracks being the foundation, the concrete, if you will, that tied each song to the next. So that way, everything had a unified sound. And also a big thing was we had Jay Messina, yep. Who, if people don't know who Jay is, Jay was responsible for engineering, and he was also, he was uncredited, but he actually mixed Destroyer, and he engineered, and he also mixed Dynasty, and he co-mixed Unmasked. So, there's a very short list of people, I think, who know what a Kiss record should sound like. And I think Jay Messina is one of those people. So reaching out to Jay and having him master the record to really help unify the sound of the record from beginning to end, that was also a big help in terms of, having that sonic identity and the, unified sound from beginning to end.
So was that you that reached out to Jay, and like, how did you pitch it to him to get him involved?
Basically it was just the way I did to everybody. Is I just, I told them what I wanted to do, that I was doing, this Kiss tribute record. And I told them, the purpose behind it was we wanted to do something that was going to help, the homeless, population, particularly the youth, through Compass House. And that we wanted to, donate the proceeds of the record. And we really didn't have a budget per se. So it's not like we had, some backer that we could just, get money and hand off to these people to participate. They all really did it because they believed in the same cause that we did.
Awesome.
And, and they knew, just hearing some of the original mixes, that, we were really, really bent on making it sound authentic and making it sound like a good record, like a Kiss record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things to me, I mentioned before, The Street Giveth, when I'm listening to the whole CD through and through, especially that song, and we know, big Kiss fans know that Hot in the Shade was largely demos, right? We know that at this point as
Right.
Kiss fans. And when I hear the recording you have on this, I'm like, wow, that song, what that album could have sounded like, because it's so well produced, it's so well mixed, it's just the sound of it is just incredible through and through. And it doesn't matter if you're listening to a song from the Makeup era or if you're listening to Freak from Monster on your CD, they just sound like they're all part of history, so to speak, right? And they are so natural. It flows really, really natural. So
thank you, man. That was what we really wanted to do. Is we didn't want to have something where, it was fatiguing to the ear, where you're listening to one song. I mean, if you listen to a greatest hits album, right? If you listen to a greatest hits album from Kiss, and you listen to something from the first record or Harder Than Hell, and then it goes to like Crazy Nights or, Revenge, the sonic change is just so much when you're listening to that, and as much as, I love all the songs, it's really hard sometimes for your ear to kind of transition from hearing those early, recordings to hearing what, more current recordings sound like. And that was something we wanted to try to eliminate with the record, was having that, that kind of, that ear shock going from track to track. Having it sound so different.
Agreed. So you mentioned now a few times the various national guests that you had on the CD. So let's just talk about that a little bit. First off, who was the first person you got involved, and how did you get these different people involved in the CD?
Actually, the first person that I reached out to was Robbie Takak from the Goo Goo Dolls. Because being that the album, is primarily Western New York's tribute to Kiss, from this area, truthfully, there's not a lot of, musicians, big name musicians that really got big from this area. I mean, primarily you have Rick James, who's no longer with us. You have Billy Sheehan. He's done a lot of, great things. And you have the Goo Goo Dolls.
Sure.
And we reached out to both Billy and to Robbie. Things, unfortunately, with Billy's schedule, it didn't work out to get Billy involved. But we reached out to Robbie, and Robbie is a huge supporter of the local music
Buffalo,
scene.
Absolutely.
He has his own annual music festival that he does called Music is Art, which he actually asked Kiss to open up for the Goo Goo Dolls in 2016, and then he's asked us back every year since then. And this last year was different because it was the first year that they didn't have people at the it was all virtual, so that was different. But Robbie's just a huge supporter of music. And when I reached out to him and asked him about, participating on the record, he agreed to it immediately. And I told him, different songs we're looking at doing. And I told him Hard Luck Woman was one of the songs we wanted to do. And he picked that immediately. And he picked the song because not only, did he, being a fan of the song, but he loved the backstory of the song, the fact that it was a song written by Paul Stanley. Initially, Paul wanted to give the song to Rod Stewart, and then Peter Criss heard it, and Peter Criss fell in love with the song and didn't want Paul to give it to Rod. He wanted to sing it. And so Robbie really, really liked the backstory as much as liking the song. So, he just really loved everything about the song. And, Robbie, was literally the first, national pro circuit guy to participate and donate a track to the record.
That's awesome. And look, I'll be honest, and most Kiss fans look at me and say, really? But I'm actually a huge Goo Goo Dolls fan, right? And I go back
It's
to
awesome.
the early 90s time period. I got into them when they were closer to a punk rock slash alternative
Yeah.
type band, and they turned into pop later on. But I was very surprised when I heard he was doing Hard Luck Woman, because the Robbie I know sang all the songs on Goo Goo Dolls' first album, which if you haven't heard it, it's punk. It sounds nothing like the Goo Goo Dolls people know. The second album, I think he sings like 12 of the 14 songs. He was their lead singer for a few years, actually. And he was
Yeah.
the hard guy, the heavy guy, the punk guy. So when I heard he was doing Hard Luck Woman, I'm like, wow, that's an interesting choice. I know the Goo Goo Dolls have all those ballads, but Robbie's usually the punk guy. So I think it's cool that he kind of took to that story and the backstory of that song. It makes sense now why he would want to do that. Because I was like, wow, I thought he'd do something heavy. I figured he'd be like the unholy type of guy or something like that. So that's really
Right.
cool. That's really cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Robbie's participation is, a lot of people, you kind of have two divided groups when it comes to doing Kiss covers, or I imagine covers in general. You have people that they want to hear the song done very authentic to the original, and then you have people that they want you to hear you do a different interpretation of the song, and you can never win. Because if you
Sure.
do it where you're playing it authentic, then you have people saying, well, I would have preferred if you would have put a little more of your own, artistic license to it. Or and then if you do it too different, they say, oh, well, it doesn't sound enough like the original, right?
Right.
So we tried to do a bit of both with Buffalo Rock City. And the thing about Robbie is, Robbie came in, he sang it in his mind, he sang it close to the original. But if you listen to it, it's really, as you know, being a fan of the Goo Goo Dolls, it sounds like Robbie. It's just,
Totally does.
Robbie taking. Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
totally Robbie,
I agree.
So, and again, you're gonna have some people that are gonna appreciate that, especially Goo Goo Dolls fans. The response that we got from Goo Goo Dolls fans over hearing that song is just phenomenal. And then you have some Kiss fans that is like, well, he doesn't sing it like Paul Stanley, or he doesn't sing it like Peter Criss or Garth Brooks,
Right.
So you can never win in that
No.
argument.
But he's nothing like any of those guys as a singer. Again, being a fan and knowing all
No.
of his material back and forth, I know his voice. He's nothing like those guys, and I'm happy he did something
Right.
different. It's kind of cool to me. Very cool. So
Yeah, no, I think it's important that again that you have that variety, because if you did everything just as a basic note for note reproduction of the original song, then I think you get kind of too one tracked with your approach.
and one of the ones that stuck out to me listening to the CD, and it's certainly very similar to the original, which is a cover in of itself, but New York Groove. I love the version that is on Buffalo Rock City. It's certainly similar, but it has a little bit of a different feel to it. And I'm like, this might be my favorite version of New York Groove I've ever heard, actually. So it kind of, to me, kind of is that fine balance between being very true to the original, but still feeling a little different and very fresh to me. I love that version that you guys have on the CD.
Thanks. Well, yeah, we actually titled it New York Groove 7880.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the reason why that we did that was because our original thought was we wanted to go in and we wanted to do the live arrangement that Kiss did, like in Sydney, Australia, in 1980. That was the way that we wanted to go, and we wanted to do it that way. And Tommy Henriksen from Alice Cooper, he's the one who recorded the vocals for the song. And when he wanted to do the song, his idea is he wanted to do it totally authentic to the Ace Frehley solo recording. Okay. So it was a bit of a artistic struggle at that point because we were looking at it one way, he was looking at it another. So what we wound up doing is we wound up doing it just like the Ace Frehley 78 solo record. But what we did is we had our drummer from Kiss This, his name is Julius Jambaluka. He portrays Eric Carr in the band. And he went in and he played all the drum fills just like how Eric Carr did. And that was the great thing. If Kiss fans recall, when Kiss first did New York Groove in 79 on the Dynasty Tour, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Peter Criss, but I thought the version that they did of New York Groove on the Dynasty Tour was just kind of flat. It
Flat.
just didn't
Yep.
really have a lot of oomph to it. And then you watch the 1980 Sydney show with Eric Carr, and he's starting out, with those hi-hat lifts and the tom rolls, and the tempo is up tempo, and it just has so much energy. It was such a signature Eric Carr, type song, the way that he, breathed life into that song. So when we did the final mix, we added those Eric Carr drum fills to the song. So essentially what you have is the foundation is the 1978 Ace Frehley version, but we added those great Eric Carr drum rolls into the song to give it that different flavor,
Yep.
like you had mentioned.
And it's subtle, which is why I started off saying it's true to the original, but it has a little bit of a different feel, and it feels, the word I thought of is, this feels very fresh. It feels good. I love the version you guys did, like I said. So thank you
Thank
for
you,
that. Yeah.
man.
Yeah. So another guest
Thank
on it is, from Kiss 3, I guess, is Mitch Weissman, right? Who wrote with Kiss in the
Yeah.
80s. And I guess that's the bonus track at the end of the CD, While the City Sleeps. Which again, to me, I listened to that, and I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the version on Animalize, but I listened to this, I'm like, I thought back to, and this is the compliment I could give you guys, I thought back to Bruce Kulick on The Cruise, and when he would play those Animalize songs, I'm like, damn, these songs are actually better than they sound on the album. And when I heard this version of While the City Sleeps, I'm like, this could have been an even better song, because on Animalize it's and this is, it just sounds so, it's a great version. So how do you get Mitch involved?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, basically, what it was is, again, going into the record, we wanted to do some things that had never been done before. And, one of the things that had never been done before is there was never a time where a Kiss co-writer had actually gone back and re-recorded a studio version of a song that they co-wrote with Kiss that wound up on a Kiss record. So I thought it would be great to have Mitch, sing the song the way he originally envisioned the melody line. And he said that the way he sang the song was the same way that he sang the melody to Gene when he was telling Gene the way he should sing it on the record. So we thought it would be great to hear, Mitch's interpretation of the song. And, we just wanted to do something different. And also, we wanted to, represent all of the guitar players in Kiss on the record, which are all represented. You have all 5 Kiss guitar players represented on the album. You also have all the major Kiss studio drummers represented. You have Peter Criss, Eric Carr, Eric Singer, Anton Fig, and Kevin Valentine. They're all represented on the record. So there was we had bullet points that we wanted to hit doing the record. And like I said, one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to, do something that's never been done before, a first in history, if you will. So that was kind of the driving point behind asking Mitch to do that. And again, he was somebody that believed in our cause. And, as far as I know, the last thing Mitch had done anything recording wise is he was on the Ace Frehley tribute album. I think it was
Spacewalk.
Spacewalk or Return of the Comet.
Oh, maybe it was Return of Comet. Yeah, I think you're right.
Where he sang Remember Me with Richie Scarlett on guitar. So it had been a number of years since, Mitch had done, any studio work. So, it was great to be able to kind of, and again, this was all during, one thing we haven't really touched on was that all of this was done during COVID. That was the thing. It was like such a challenge to be able to get things done when you have a worldwide, pandemic going on. And in a lot of ways, it allowed this album and these artists, these national guys, to participate, because otherwise, all the guys from Ace Frehley's band who are on the record, they would have been on tour with Ace. Sure. Tommy Henriksen, he was on tour with Alice Cooper. So like all these different guys, Bumblefoot, he was on tour with Sons of Apollo. All these guys, were all out on tours. And if the, coronavirus didn't occur, these guys would have been out on the road and they wouldn't have had the free time to, you know, participate and donate tracks. So, you know, it was one of the situations where, you know, out of something horrible, something good came out of it. So that, you know, we're thankful for that. So
Yeah.
that
And
was
one of the things I love, and you mentioned, I call them the Nashville guys, right? He's his band, right? So
right.
they're on a few
Right.
different tracks, and I love that they each get their moments on the album, so to speak. And again, it's sometimes
Yeah.
not the most obvious songs. It's Dirty Living, it's My Life. So I thought that was another cool aspect of it, having some of Ace's band and previously Gene's band doing some of these really like deep cuts, which was cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Phil Schaus, I actually got to meet Phil during the Gene Simmons solo tour. And on the last night of the tour, he invited myself and Taylor Sturza, who's the Gene Simmons from Kiss This.
Mm-hmm.
And as you recall, during the Gene Simmons tour, they had those two songs that during the night when they did Do You Love Me, they would invite all the female fans up on stage to sing Do You Love Me. And then for I Love It Loud, they had all the male fans come up, and Phil arranged it for Taylor and I to go up on stage in Verona, New York. And we were in full regalia, full makeup and costume. And we went up on stage and, you know, we sang I Love It Loud with Gene and the rest of the fans and the band. And I kept in touch with Phil ever since that point. And then when things started happening with the record, you know, Phil really wanted to participate. And it started out where he actually played bass on Hard Times, which was actually one of the songs that I play all the guitars on. And it's the only song that I sing lead on, which was very daunting for me because I'm not really a lead singer, you know, like I sing the Ace stuff because I, you know, portray Ace and Kiss This, you know, but it's a lot different singing live than singing in the studio because you're really under the microscope, you know. And so doing Hard Times and being able to have, you know, Ace Frehley's actual bass player, you know, play the bass parts on the song, that was just, it was a dream come true to have Phil do that. And then after we did that, he's like, you got any other songs I can play on? And I'm like, well, yeah. And then we were doing Dirty Living. And I go, well, what about Dirty Living? Because we really hadn't finalized who was going to play guitar on that. And Phil's like, yeah, I know that. And so Phil, he played all the guitar parts on Dirty Living. And then Dean Castronovo, who sang the vocals on Black Diamond, was supposed to do the vocals for Dirty Living, and he wound up having to have some, he had some contractual obligations with the Dead Daisies, so he wasn't able to do the vocals. So we wound up not having a vocalist for Dirty Living, and so I asked Phil, I said, what about Ryan Spencer Cook? I go, he's got that, raspy, almost Peter Criss like voice, and he's like, yeah, he'd probably do it. So I asked Ryan, and again, I approached him in the same way I did everybody else. And, and he said, count me in. And he actually, when he recorded the vocals, Paul Taylor from Winger was actually his engineer. And Paul Taylor engineered the vocal recording for the song, and he recorded the vocals and, again, remotely, and, sent them over. And so both Phil and Ryan are on Dirty Living. And then, and then it's like, well, I can't have just the two guys. I got to get, Jeremy. So I reached out to Jeremy, and he, I told him that we wanted to do It's My Life. And we wanted to do it kind of like in a duet, like a what if Gene and Wendell Williams had sung the song together. That's kind of like the premise of the version, on the album. And he loved the idea. And the ironic thing is he told me that when he did the song It's My Life with Gene live, that Gene wanted him to play the solo just like how it was on the Wendell Williams version, because it's slightly different than the guitar solo that Tommy Thayer played on the box set version. So Gene was very adamant that he wanted Jeremy to play it like how it was on the Wendy O record. So when Jeremy did the guitar solo on Buffalo Rock City, he played it like how he did in the Gene Simmons band.
Yeah.
And
Who's doing the vocals on that song? It's like you said, it's like a Wendy meets Gene vocal. So who's doing that?
Yeah, Taylor Stursa from Kiss This does the Gene Simmons parts, and then there's a female vocalist. Her name is Jane Evil, and she's from a band in Rochester, New York, called Adrenaline. And we actually did a few shows where they opened for us, and I always thought, I'm like, man, she sounds like Wendy O. Williams.
Sure.
And then I'm like, she would probably sound amazing singing "It's My Life." So then when it came to coming up with the song list for the record, it was kind of a no-brainer. It's like, we got to have Jane do it. And then we're like, well, why don't we have it like a combination? And then I actually sing like the box set version. The third verse of the song is sung by Ace. So I sing the Ace part on the song. So for the first verse, it's Jane. And then the second verse, it's Taylor. And then the third verse, it's me. And then, and then Taylor does all the Gene ad-lib vocal parts, just like how on the box set version. So
now, is it Jane? Go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
No, and then Jeremy played all the guitar on the song.
That's awesome. Now, is it her singing the background vocals? I think it was on Black Diamond, like towards the end of the song. There's like some harmonies in like, I think there's like the last chorus. Sound like there was a female voice behind there. Was that her also, or is that somebody else?
No. Actually, your ears are correct. There is a female vocal on Black Diamond, and actually, Dean Castronovo's son Kyle, his girlfriend, who is an amazing vocalist. Her name is Alice. And Alice, she sang the background vocals. Kyle engineered the vocal session for his father, for Dean. And then when he was, going to do the harmonies, he wanted somebody who could really, hit those real high, almost angelic type parts. And he had Alice come in, and she did an amazing job.
Yeah, the first time I listened to it, I'm like, oh, wow, that surprised me. But it was a nice little twist on it, which again stays kind of like true to the original, but with a fresh new slant. I thought it was a tasty little thing you guys did there. I like that. So that was cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And again, that was the thing. It's like, if we did everything, note for note, just exactly how it was, I think it would just kind of become, kind of boring, kind of, too much of the same. So we did want to throw in twists in there. And also, if you notice, a lot of the songs on the original Kiss albums, they were fade outs.
Yep.
And what we did is we added hard endings to a lot of the songs, where on the original recordings, they were fade outs. Yep. Like Hard Luck Woman, It's My Life, Street Giveth, that a lot of the songs that originally were fade out songs, we wanted to have hard stop endings just to make them different than, how they were, to add, like you said, to give it a twist.
Right. One of the songs we haven't spoke about yet, but I thought again, it was another great version. And I'd love to know who's singing this one, Back on the Streets. Right. So I thought it kind of stayed very true to the Vinnie Vincent version, but the mix wasn't so over the top with all the guitars, which Vinny loved to do in the 80s. So who's singing that, and talk about recording that one?
Yeah, actually, the vocalist who sang Back on the Streets, his name is Nat Peace. And Nat Peace, he's a younger kid. He's late 20s, early 30s. He's phenomenal vocalist. He actually sings for a Judas Priest tribute band called Call for the Priest. Yeah, so he's got an amazing range. And his uncle Brad actually played in one of the versions of my very first band. And his uncle Brad Peace, he's very well known in the area. And the ironic thing was, talking to both of them, is you usually hear of like families that have musicians, you'll hear like, oh yeah, we'll get together, we'll have like a family jam, and we'll, and they never at all ever had done any work together musically. and they're both like very talented musicians. So I'm like, well, I got to get both these guys on a song together. So I wound up getting Brad Peace to play bass and Nat Peace to sing vocals. And then my friend Gene Schmidt, he played all the Vinnie Vincent parts. And he also played the Mark St. John songs too, which, you know, that was very challenging to find somebody. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find somebody who could play those parts, you know, accurately, you know, like how they're originally done, because, you know, that was the thing is, you know, if you're a big Vinnie Vincent fan,
Yep.
if you've ever listened to any cover of Back on the Streets, I don't think if you go on YouTube, you'll find one version where the guitar player is playing Vinnie Vincent solo. Usually what you'll see is they'll do a cover they'll do the John Norum version,
Right.
which is a lot easier guitar solo to play. And I understand some people might prefer, you know, John Norum's version to Vinnie's, but I've never heard any guitar player nail that solo. And to hear Gene Schmidt play that solo the way that he did, it just was jaw dropping. I mean, it just, and then the cool thing that we did at the end is that we actually pulled up the board tape from the Toronto show from the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. And at the end, at the very end of the song, they do this, Vinnie does this little acoustic run at the end of the song, and it sounded really cool. So when we did the song, I told Gene, I'm like, oh, you got to learn that. You gotta play that like how they did it live. So, you know, any diehard Vinnie Vincent fans, if you listen to that version and you listen to the end, that's a complete tip of the hat to, you know, the live Vinnie Vincent Invasion version of Back on the Streets.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was saying before about the mix on the album. You know, you stay true to the Vinnie version. You have those solos replicated, but it doesn't smack you in the face the way that Vinnie Vincent album does. It's mixed and sounds like it could be a Kiss song on Animalized. Like you compared it to Mark St. John's playing on I've Had Enough. Those first two songs on this, it kind of just, it feels right is the best way I could say. In the mix, I think you guys really nailed the mix on that, which you know was great.
Thank you. I mean, and again, that was the thing too. It's like when you go back and you listen to everything you recorded and you go into the sequencing part, you start listening to the songs that sound most associated to each other. You know, everything sound unified, but you know, like even when you're utilizing the same drums and everything else, you still sometimes, you know, you'll have a song that, well, this song, you know, the bass drum is more up front, you know, so like New York Groove really had that really strong, you know, bass drum in the beginning of the song. And then It's My Life also too has that real big drum sound. And then Hard Times opens up with that huge drum fill by Anton Fig. So, you know, so listening to, I'm like, well, it only makes sense then, you know, go New York Groove, It's My Life, Hard Times, and then, you know, and you just kind of piece the puzzle together in a way that seems fitting and a good running order, just like how Kiss would on a record or for their live show. You know, they'll put together a set list and figure out what songs run well together live. And I thought listening back to the, you know, finished mixes that, you know, I've Had Enough, that it segued very well from I've Had Enough to go to Back on the Streets.
You know, it definitely does. Now you guys also put out a promo video, I guess about 6-8 weeks ago of Hard Luck Woman. We were talking before about Robbie's involvement from the Goo Dolls, and he's actually in the video with you guys. So how do you get that video done? Obviously you mentioned COVID and some of the challenges. What was it like putting that video together for you guys?
Yeah, again, that was what I referred to before, was that Robbie has his music festival, Music is Art. And we were talking earlier in the year about, you know, participating in Music is Art. And one of the things that we wanted to do that we hadn't had the opportunity to do so was to actually have Robbie come up and perform with us. And then after we had recorded Hard Luck Woman and had him do the vocals, that was back in February. You know, we're like, well, it would only make sense then, because Music is Art every year is September of that year.
Sure.
So we're like, well, it only makes sense to have Robbie then come up and sing Hard Luck Woman with us. And then when COVID hit really bad in March and all the restrictions, and as things started, you know, normally is where they were coming together for Music is Art, it was unsure of whether or not there was going to be any live music, even if it was done with no crowd. So we were just talking about, you know, doing recordings and putting together a virtual concert per se, you know, of different recordings. So we decided to make a music video for Hard Luck Woman that we could also have, you know, as part of Music is Art. So that was the antithesis of doing the video for Hard Luck Woman, was to do the video with Robbie, because, you know, we had no idea how things were going to, you know, pan out, you know, back in, you know, in the summer. We, you know, when we recorded the video, it was, I believe, in the beginning of July. We still didn't know how things were going to pan out, you know, 2 months later, September, for Music is Art. So, you know, we just wanted to make sure that we had, you know, the video in the can, as they say, so we had something to air. And then they did wind up having bands play live, and we did play live for Music is Art, but there was no crowd. It was just all done virtual. So we actually played live, and then we also, you know, they had showed they debuted the video for Hard Luck Woman, Their Music is Art.
That's very cool. Now, I think one of the other aspects of the album that I like has nothing to do with the music, but it's the album cover, right? The artwork, right? So you mentioned before of growing up as a Kiss fan, and that Destroyer album cover kind of bringing you in. And it's funny as you were telling that story, because my first memory is being, I must have been close to 6 years old, and going to a friend of mine's house, and he had the Kiss Destroyer poster hanging up. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm equally scared and totally drawn in by this poster, right? So I have to know more about that, right? So that photo will forever be ingrained in my mind, because that was, before I even knew a song, that photo is where my Kiss fandom started. But you put a nice, fun little twist on it. This is like, well, this is the Destroyer album. If you were to flip it around and look at from the backside of what Kiss was about. So talk about that, and who you got to do that artwork. Talk about that album cover.
Yeah, well, like you said, it was one of those things where, you know, staring at that cover when I was a kid, you know, being at the time, I think I was in 76, I was 4. So, you know, I'm 4 years old, and I'm looking at this album cover, and I'm just like gazing at it and probably staring at it for hours. And I go into like a mode where I would actually like envision that I was there, and I would think about like what it would be like, you know, at the bottom of the mountain, looking up at the top, seeing Kiss there, and then being behind in the burning city area and seeing what they look like up on top, you know, and just from all different, you know, angles, just kind of, you know, visualizing what they would be like in that, you know, very very hellific type atmosphere, you know. You know, and especially being, you know, 4 years old, looking at that, it was pretty, like you said, it was scary, but yet intriguing at the same time. It's like they're like these badass superheroes. It's not Superman, but it's you know, something equally as powerful, but a little more, I guess, sinister, right? That was like kind of like what Kiss was, you know. And so when it came time to do the album cover, you know, being respectful of the band and also being respectful of the Kiss legal team, I wanted to make sure that, you know, I didn't do anything that violated their trademarks. So I made sure that there was no Kiss logo, that there was no makeup designs. So the challenge arose: how do you have a Kiss album cover without actually having, you know, with having Kiss on the cover, but not showing Kiss? How do you do that? You know, Yeah, so I came up with the concept of like, well, what if we had that iconic, destroyer pose and shown it from behind,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the album cover, it's the destroyer pose in front of Buffalo's City Hall, which growing up in Buffalo, I always thought that downtown Buffalo had like a Gotham-esque, from Batman, a
Mm-hmm.
Gotham-esque type look to it. And then seeing that, drawn and put in that light, it just was totally worked. And it was done by Kevin Conrad. Kevin Conrad actually, he did the Psycho Circus comic book series. He worked for Todd McFarlane, and he did all 31 issues of the Psycho Circus comic book series. And yeah, he inked all those comics, and I've known Kevin now going back to about 98. So it's been a number of years I've known Kevin. Kevin actually drew one of the covers for the Kiss Underground when I was doing the fanzine. That's my introduction to having a friendship and working relationship with Kevin. And so when I wanted to do this record, he was literally like the first person I thought of. I'm like, he should do this cover. And I told him what the concept was, and I wasn't sure how exciting it was going to be to see, the 4 Kiss members from behind.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if it was going to work. Conceptually, I saw it, but I didn't know on paper, I didn't know how that was going to work. And he started showing me sketches, and then seeing the finished, artwork. And then the coloring was done by a gentleman by the name of Ben Prenvost. He did the colorization for it, and just seeing the finished artwork, it was literally like looking at Destroyer, from an alternate angle.
Yeah, no,
And then one thing I want to comment on is we got some criticism for the cover because the Kiss members are wearing different era costumes. Okay. And the reason that is because my tribute band, Kiss This, again, I guess I'm one of those people that likes to do things differently, is that while most Kiss tribute bands, they all wear one unified era set of costumes, we wear our favorite era for each member. So, say if the guys wanted to do the Alive costumes, that's probably my least favorite Ace Frehley costume is the Alive costume. So it's like, we talked about it. It's like, well, Kiss doesn't have any rules, At first they said they would never take off the makeup. They took it off. They said they would never put it back on. They put it back on. They said they would never have a blonde guy in the band. Yep. They had a blonde drummer, So, in reality with Kiss, there's no rules. And so we just looked at it as like, you know what? Let's just wear the costumes that we love that really, epitomizes each member that we portray. So Kevin, is aware of our band and is aware of the concept that, with our costumes. So it was actually his suggestion that instead of doing, the Destroyer pose with the Destroyer costumes, he suggested to have, the costumes that we wear. And again, our drummer portrays Eric Carr instead of Peter Criss. So it's actually Eric Carr on the cover of Buffalo Rock City. As opposed to Peter Criss.
So. I think it's a neat twist on it. And to me, it goes back to what we were saying about the album covering the entire spectrum of every Kiss member. So to me, the album cover there tried to cover, at least from a makeup point of view, the best you can, those 4 members. So I think it's a cool twist. But, you said something before I kind of want to touch on. Let's go back to the beginning of our conversation. We were talking about all the other tribute albums that have come out. And if I remember right, it was hard to believe when that came out, like yes. You said, it was the first one. When you open up the booklet, somebody had written in there, from the record label, "Hey Gene, please don't sue us." Right? So that always kind of stuck in my mind. I remember that, although I hadn't thought about it for years until you just mentioned not wanting to hear from the legal team. Have you heard anything at all from Kiss about this in terms of, "Hey, great job," or "Hey, be careful with this"? Have they given you any feedback at all?
I sent early mixes to Eric Singer. I sent him Black Diamond after Dean had recorded his vocals, and he wrote back. He said, very cool. He said, Dean sounds great as usual. I haven't heard anything else from any of the members of Kiss. Actually, Mitch Weissman sent Bruce Kulick a rough mix of While the City Sleeps as we were recording it. And Bruce sent him a message back, said, sounds great. So at least from those two guys, positive feedback. When we went into recording the album, we made sure that we dotted all I's and crossed all the T's. When you do a tribute album legally, the way you should do it is you have to get the mechanical licensing for each of the songs. So that way, all the songwriters, they get paid.
Right.
For utilizing their songs. So, when we did the record, we made sure that we secured all the mechanical licensing for all the songs before we did it. As far as what Hard to Believe, I don't know if they wrote that because they didn't get the licensing or if because on the cover, I may be wrong, but I think on the cover of Hard to Believe was the 4 Love Gun faces. Isn't that on the cover?
Oh, it's been years. I'm seeing the black cover. It has the words. You might be right. It's been a few years since I've looked at the cover of that, but you might be right. Yes.
I think what it is, it's they took the face, like they cropped the faces of the 4 Love Gun images on the cover. So I think that's what it may be. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. Or if they didn't get the mechanical licensing, I couldn't vouch for them whether they did it. But like I said, I made sure everything that we did with Buffalo Rock City was by the book, and I don't think there's anything that any of the guys could have any issue with. And for the fact we're doing this for charity and donating the proceeds to to the homeless, I hope that they wouldn't pick on us.
Yeah, no, the fact they haven't heard anything, I'm sure, is a good thing, right? And the feedback you got from Eric and Bruce, that's great. So where can fans get this? Right, I know it's online, but tell fans where they can pick this up.
Yeah, the easiest way to get it is to go to our website, which is www.buffalorockcity.com, and through there you can read about the album. There's the press release, and then you just click order, and that will redirect you to the Bandcamp website. And BuffaloRockCity.com is a lot easier of a website to remember than the Bandcamp website. So that will redirect you to Bandcamp, and Bandcamp offers 2 options. You can buy the digital download, or you can buy the CD. And with the CD, I suggest people to buy the CD option, because when you buy the CD, you automatically get the free digital download for the album. And if you want to download the Bandcamp app, you get access to stream the album as many times as you want. So while you're waiting for the physical copy to show up in the mail with all the artwork and the liner notes, and I'm just old school. I love having physical product in my hand to hold and to look at, So like I said, while you're waiting for the album to arrive, you get the free digital download. You can, like I said, you can download and, listen to the record that way, or you can stream it, whatever you want. And then, we send them out right away. And, within a week of ordering, you should have the record. So
that's cool. Now you just said you're old school. So am I. Any thoughts of putting it out on vinyl?
Yeah, I would love to put it out on vinyl. It's just all a matter of, we're really still seeing the testing the waters with, the success of the record. If the demand is there, I would without a doubt do it, but I mean, it's really hard to, I'm sure you've heard, Gene's recent, rants about, kids, killing the record industry from downloading and stuff like that. So, a lot of people commented, even us putting out a CD in 2020, CD is almost a, antiquated format, so it's like, we're really pushing, the sale of the CD And, we're hoping that it's successful enough that we could put it out on other formats. And then the ultimate, goal would to do another record, to do a follow-up record, a sequel, which, we would love to do. We already have, people in mind, that we've talked to about, what songs they would do and everything. So we're really excited to do that. And, and again, with the fact that somebody pointed out on one of the KISS message boards that the fact that KISS isn't doing anything musically as far as, with releases, the fact that, we're putting a product out there that in a small way fills the gap for that.
Sure.
I know Paul Stanley has the Soul Station album that's going to be coming out, and they did the Dubai, pay-per-view, and eventually there'll be, the DVD and the Blu-ray, for that. But as far as for any other KISS product, there really isn't a ton of, music related products coming out right now. So, we're happy if we can, to fill that little void, for KISS fans right now by putting out something that's unique and different and all things KISS.
Yeah. And, I'll end on this note where I started pretty much. When I heard there was another KISS tribute album, I'm like, I don't need another KISS tribute album. There's already 50 of them. But this one to me does stand out from the sound to the song selection, to the people who performing on it, to some of the versions that we spoke about during this chat here. This is to me, an album that KISS fans will love. So if you started off like me, people who are watching or listening, thinking, I don't really need another KISS tribute album, give this one a shot. I don't think anybody will be disappointed. It's really, it's right up there. It's top shelf in terms of KISS tribute albums. I thought it was a great job on this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else you want the fans? Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, just to hear that from you really, really means that we really hit our goal, because that was our thing. It was, we asked ourselves the same question when we went into the process. Why do another KISS, tribute record, being that there's so many of them, and we knew going into it that we would have to do a lot of things different in order to make it something special, and make it something that KISS fans, because KISS fans, man, they're the most fickle fans. They're the greatest fans
really?
on earth.
Really?
But they are the most, really. Yeah. They are the most fickle fans on the face of the planet, man. And they're really hard to satisfy. So, and you can't satisfy them all, but, we tried our very best to, put out a product that we feel that will resonate with most of the KISS fandom. And, like I said, we appreciate talking to huge fans like yourself. And, we really appreciate that you have tapped into what we tried to put out there, that you get it. And we hope that more fans like you, that they get it too.
Absolutely. Well, John, I want to say thank you for taking the time to chat about this. Like you said, for anybody watching, www.buffalorockcity.com. Any other last words, John, for the fan before we wrap this up?
No, just thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. You've had great guests on. You've had Paul Stanley. You've had Robert Fleischman. You're the only journalist that Vinnie Vincent allowed to, to do a broadcast, a podcast from, his private events. So, being on your show, it means a lot. So I
didn't pay for this. I did not pay for this. Thank you.
I really do appreciate it. And, and I thank you for giving me, this opportunity to let the KISS fans that follow you, that listen to your great show, if they haven't heard about the album, now maybe they know a little bit more. Maybe they heard about it and they were kind of on the fence. So hopefully maybe this will put them over the edge, and, they'll buy it and they'll have a happy addition to their KISS collection.
I hope so. John, thank you so much. This is great. I appreciate all the time today. I hope continued success with the CD, and thank you everybody for watching. Appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Later, guys. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank John for joining me and talking all about the latest KISS tribute CD, Buffalo Rock City. Go check it out online at www.buffalorockcity.com. I think you guys will really like it. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.